The conversation before we even got on air. In recent news, Minister Daryl Vaz was accused of breaching data privacy rules to ascertain information about opposition leader Mark Golding's dual citizenship. The Office of the Prime Minister has since denied these claims, but what is data privacy and what kinds of personal information is protected by law?
Morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Chukwuemeka Cameron, privacy practitioner and founder of Design Privacy, joins us now to answer these questions and more.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. I have no reason to think that the Honourable Minister is not telling the truth when he said he got it from, I think he said the belly of the PNP. I think those are the words he used.
That's what I read.
May I correct something that the prompter had? It's Chukwuemeka. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have no reason to say he's not telling the truth. But if he did not hear it from someone in the opposition, did he break a law?
So there are different aspects of it. So we don't know. Well, we could only accept what he said. There still is a real question. Him publishing and speaking about this information, is it in breach of someone's rights? So that still is a live question. So I don't necessarily want to...
So respond to that then.
Correct. And that is where we're speaking about what can be considered information personal to an individual. Mm-hmm. In the context, however, where we're speaking about someone vying for the highest seat of our office, in the context where our Constitution makes it the question of allegiance is a constitutional issue, in the context where this issue has been, if we look over to the north, when you think about Trump and Obama, what was his main platform? He didn't have an American birth certificate. So allegiance is critical, and for the members of the public to make an informed decision as to who their leader is, that is information that is necessary for the public. So at all material times, let me pause there though. Does Mr. Golding have a right to informational privacy? Yes, like every other citizen of Jamaica. And that's what came out of our NIDS decision. Mm-hmm. All Jamaican citizens now own and control our data, and persons must have a lawful basis to use it. So the question is, did Mr. Vaz have a lawful basis? And in a context where there is a public interest to serve, that is, it has been disputed. These issues have come up in our courts. So it is a matter of public interest in no uncertain terms.
Well, I would say it's come up in our courts with respect to the U.S. citizenship and not necessarily the U.K. citizenship, which Commonwealth is a part of our Constitution. And this is what we're discussing off air, sir. So let's talk about, I guess, the legal framework, but also the moral framework and the message it sends. Because you mentioned NIDS, and then one of the things people automatically have jumped to is, this is what we're saying about NIDS. Everybody's thing is not private. Talk to me, walk me through that in terms of what are my rights in terms of data privacy.
Lovely. So there's a fine line between privacy and data protection laws.
Okay.
So from a privacy perspective, the question is, do you, Delia, have an expectation of privacy that persons will not take your picture in the public, given the fact that you are a public person?
I hope not, but they do.
Good. So the reality is you do not necessarily have an expectation of privacy because it is subject to the individual. Do I have an expectation of privacy? Yes, nobody not supposed to know me. Nobody not supposed to. I'm not a public person. I'm not on TVJ now. Mm-hmm. But if you take it without my permission, sorry, Neville, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
And you post it, isn't it within my right to demand that it comes down? So,
and that is where our Data Protection Act now defines whether or not you're using personal data for commercial, well, the language in the law is non-domestic use. So if it is, I'm just posting it on social media to be social, You can demand, yes, you can demand, but the Data Protection Act doesn't cover it, is when you use personal data for commercial uses.
Are you serious?
Yes, because, so there's also something in Jamaica is special, by the way.
That's what I realized.
It is. But the reason why I say it's special is when we think about your image, because of Bob Marley, we do have intellectual property rights in our image. So yes, from an intellectual property perspective, you can ask, well, you, because you are a figure, sub-reality, you can ask someone to take it down.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think earlier in response to a question, you said because of who Mr. Golding is, it's almost like I think you said we have a right to know what's going on. But we have a right to know what's going on in the right way. Don't?
Correct.
Not because he's a public figure, people can just go quietly and say, oh, I find out this was about Mark Golding. Look here.
So our Data Protection Act sets out conditions under which you can publish information. And it does actually make provision for non-profit organizations such as politicians, and it does identify them as a special category to use it for political purposes. So there are several bases upon which you can use personal data. You can use it with their consent. You can use it it's for a contract, you're obliged to do it. You can use it because the law says you can do it. They've also made a provision for political and non-profit associations.
Oh.
There are caveats around the whole question as to the extent a politician can use it, but they actually provided for themselves in the Data Protection Act.
Question, sir. What would happen if Mr. Vaz did do something wrong? What is the consequence there?
So for all data controllers, and a data controller is anyone who uses or processes personal data. He published it, so if it was for commercial purposes, he would be considered processing. No, man, for all data controllers, you go directly to jail, you do not pass go, you do not collect $200.
Go to jail.
Well, let me put it another way.
If you are...
You are exposed to sanction, criminal sanction, and our legislation takes it very seriously because the Office of the Information Commissioner has the power to prosecute.
Well, let's go back to Delia's question now. If somebody take her picture and post it and she didn't give them permission, that person can...
Depends.
Because Delia is not the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition.
Well, her face is considered to be sensitive it's biometric data, so it's considered to be sensitive personal data. So if they were to sell it, use it for commercial purposes...
Sell it, but just to post it without our permission.
For domestic purposes, no problems there.
I went into a store. And
you're a superstar.
No, I went into a store. No, and I'm being very serious. I went into a store and I bought some stuff. A picture was taken of me, which I gave permission for, but then it was posted, and the caption said, what's the word when you say you liked it?
You endorse it?
I endorsed it. Yeah, the caption said I endorsed it, which I didn't. What could I have done?
You have remedy under... that's for commercial purposes.
Right.
But when you give consent, it must be with the law says it must be with your explicit consent. So when you consent, you know what they're going to be doing with their personal data. So in those circumstances where you were not notified of what they were going to do with their personal data, that's not valid consent. So you can make a complaint to the Office of the Information Commissioner. And you also have redress on intellectual property because you are a star.
Yeah.
Because again, it comes back, and I did give permission. I was
Permission
walking
for
and the
what?
person, I can take a picture and I say, yeah, man, which people ask us to do all the time. But then someone sent me this thing that me endorse it and
So consent, the law says that consent must be explicit. So when you give consent, you know that they are taking your picture for the purposes of endorsing this product. And
the law is different for Delia than a minister or the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition?
No, it is different for those persons who are vying for the highest office. Anybody can vie for that position, so it's not the individual, it is a position. You have to look at each situation in its own context. All of us all of us enjoy the same informational privacy rights.
Okay.
However, you have to look at each situation in its own context.
Well, as I said this morning, we need to learn more about our labor laws. We certainly need to learn more about our data privacy laws. Where would we go?
Just to speak on that, our privacy laws are much more stronger than our labor laws. And when you look at what has been happening in Europe, and I saw the clip before, employees have been leveraging data protection laws to enforce their labor law rights, because we have, across the world and in Jamaica, very strong data privacy rights.
Yeah. Okay. I understand everything you said, and I thank you for that. I don't understand why Delia would be different from anyone else if that person is, doing something that she didn't agree to, that she didn't ask anyone to do. I don't understand why it would be different than if it is the Prime Minister or anybody else, because you're still infringing.
So, Mr. Golden can go to the Office of the Information Commissioner and make a complaint. The question is, can a defense be raised? And the answer is yes. So that's why I say we all enjoy the same rights, all have same access to remedies and relief.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Chukwuemeka Cameron, privacy practitioner and founder of Design Privacy.
Next up, we explore a cinematic collaboration. We soon come. Work hard. Now work.